She looked perfect at the start. Not good, perfect. Not we get along, perfect, too perfect. The kind of perfect that makes your instincts whisper, slow down, but your ego says, don't ruin this. Second date, and she's telling you things most people wouldn't tell a therapist for 6 months. Childhood wounds, past betrayals, the I've never felt safe with anyone speech, the trembling voice, the long stare that feels like intimacy. She makes you feel chosen, not liked. Chosen. Like you didn't just meet a woman, you discovered your missing piece. And that's exactly how it begins when you're dealing with a covert narcissistic partner. Let's get something clear before we go deeper. This is not dating is hard. This is not communication problems. This is not she's emotional. This is not normal relationship friction. This is predatory manipulation wrapped in tenderness. It's the kind of person who uses closeness as a tool, not a bond, who uses love language as leverage, who turns your empathy into a handle, who doesn't just want affection from you, but access to your mind, your nervous system, your identity. And the reason this kind of partner is so dangerous is simple. They don't look dangerous. They look like the victim. They look gentle, misunderstood, sensitive, too caring. They speak softly. They cry easily. They tell you how much they've been hurt. They make you feel like you're the first man who's ever really seen them. Meanwhile, they're studying you, not in a romantic way, in a tactical way. They're learning what you respond to, what you fear, where you feel shame, what you're proud of, what you've survived, what you've never healed, what you'll tolerate, what you'll forgive. Then they build a relationship designed to turn you from an independent man into a caretaker who exists to regulate their emotions and confirm their version of reality. Not a partner, a device. And they have a pattern, a system, a playbook. The details change, but the architecture stays the same. Once you can see the architecture, you stop taking it personally, and you stop getting trapped by the same script. So let's break down the weapons, not to make you paranoid, not to make you hate women. This isn't gender war. Covert narcissism can show up in any gender. But I'm speaking to men dating women because that's where most of you are living this story. The goal is simple: to help you recognize the pattern early, keep your clarity, and protect your mental health before a relationship becomes psychological captivity. Weapon 1, strategic vulnerability. The first weapon is what looks like intimacy, weaponized vulnerability. She opens up fast, too fast, not gradually, not naturally, but like a dam breaking. You haven't built trust yet, but she's pouring trauma into your hands like it's a sacred assignment. And it works because it hits a deep male. Instinct, protect, provide safety, fix, earn meaning through being needed. Most men don't feel respected for who they are. They feel respected for what they do. So when a woman makes you feel essential to her healing, it activates something powerful. Purpose. You feel like the good man, the strong man, the rare man, the man who won't abandon her like the others did. But here's the difference between healthy vulnerability and manipulation. Healthy vulnerability creates mutual safety. Weaponized vulnerability creates one-sided obligation. In a healthy connection, you both share, you both hold space, and you both respect each other's boundaries. In a manipulation dynamic, she shares early to create emotional debt. Now you're the guy who knows, which makes you feel responsible. Now you're the one she trusts, which makes leaving feel like betrayal. Now you're the only one who understands, which makes you feel guilty for needing space. And once you're hooked, Her wounds become her permission slips. She can lash out because she's triggered. She can cross lines because she's afraid. She can punish you because she didn't feel safe. And if you object, you become the villain who doesn't understand trauma. That's not vulnerability. That's a trap dressed as softness. Weapon 2, love bombing with a hidden agenda. Next comes the high, the phase that makes you defend her later when things get ugly. Attention, admiration, intensity. It feels like you finally met a woman who sees your value without you having to perform. She texts first. She checks in. She compliments you in a way that hits your specific insecurities. She mirrors your interests. She laughs at your jokes like you invented humor. She makes you feel like your presence changes her whole mood. You're not dating, you're being worshipped. But love bombing isn't love. It's acceleration. It's a pressure system designed to bypass your discernment. The faster you bond, the less you evaluate. The less you evaluate, the easier you are to control. When a healthy woman likes you, she's consistent. When a manipulative person wants you, they're overwhelming. They create a fantasy fast because fantasy doesn't require accountability. Fantasy only requires your imagination. And once you've tasted that fantasy, you'll spend months trying to get it back. That's the hook. Weapon 3, intermittent reinforcement. This is the core addiction mechanism, and it's the reason smart men stay too long. Intermittent reinforcement is the same psychology that makes gambling addictive. You don't get reward consistently. You get it unpredictably. One day she's warm, affectionate. I've never felt this with anyone. Next day she's cold, distant, critical, suspicious, or offended by something minor. And just when you start to detach, just when your logic says this isn't stable, she gives you a good day again, a sweet moment, a loving message, a passionate night, a glimpse of the woman you thought she was. Your brain doesn't register that as instability. It registers it as hope. So you stay, you work harder, you become a specialist in her moods. You start thinking in strategies. What should I say? What should I not say? What tone? What timing? What words? You're not in love. You're in conditioning. And conditioning makes you confuse relief with connection. When she finally acts normal again, you feel grateful. You feel rewarded. You feel like you fixed it. But what you actually did was comply. Weapon 4, passive aggression and plausible deniability. Now the chaos becomes subtle. She doesn't always explode. She erodes. A sigh when you walk in. A fine that isn't fine. A cold shoulder with a sweet voice. A joke that lands like an insult, then a laugh. I'm kidding. Relax. She creates discomfort without taking responsibility for creating it. And that's what makes it so destabilizing. You can't point to a clear offense. You just feel a fog, a tension, like the air is always slightly wrong. If you confront her, she denies it. If you ignore it, you get punished. You're put into a double bind, responsible for her mood, but not allowed to name it. So you become hyper-vigilant. You start scanning her tone, her eyes, her pauses, her phrasing. You're trying to predict the weather, and any man who lives that way loses his peace. That's the point. A calm man is hard to control. An anxious man is easy. Weapon 5, the deflection shield. Healthy partners can take feedback. They might not love it, but they can hear it. Covert narcissistic partners treat feedback like an attack. Accountability feels like humiliation. So they redirect. You bring up a behavior, and suddenly you're defending your character. You say, when you said that, it hurt. And she responds, so I'm the worst person ever? You say, I need you to be honest. And she responds, you're so controlling. You say, this pattern is exhausting. And she responds, you're never satisfied. The topic changes from her behavior to your supposed flaw. And now you're not talking about the problem. You're talking about how you're making her feel. The deflection shield has one goal: to make it dangerous for you to speak. Because if every concern turns into a crisis, you'll stop bringing concerns. You'll start swallowing your reality. You'll start editing yourself. And that's how a man disappears inside a relationship without anyone noticing except him. Weapon 6. Weaponizing your vulnerabilities. The most violating moment is when you realize the safe space was a data collection phase. During the early bonding, she asked about your childhood, your ex, your insecurities, the moments you felt rejected, the fears you don't tell anyone. She acted supportive. She listened. She held you. Later, during conflict, those same details show up like knives. She brings up your past failures when you set a boundary. She mocks the exact insecurity you trusted her with. She implies you're broken like your father. She references your ex leaving you as proof you're unlovable. Then when you react, she calls you unstable. This is how the predator wins twice. She injures you, then labels your bleeding as the problem. And the scar it leaves is bigger than the relationship. Men walk away from this and start believing vulnerability is weakness. They start believing love is a trap. They start believing no one is safe. What happened wasn't love. It was emotional espionage. Weapon 7. No-win scenarios. You felt it. Nothing you do works. If you engage, you're argumentative. If you disengage, you don't care. If you reassure, you're fake. If you don't reassure, you're cold. If you help, you're controlling. If you don't help, you're useless. The rules change daily, and you're always wrong. That's not misunderstanding. That's design. No-win scenarios destroy a man's confidence because they teach him his judgment is unreliable. Over time, you stop making decisions. You start asking permission, seeking approval, checking her temperature before you act. That's how a capable man becomes a dependent man. Weapon 8. Comparison torture. She compares you to other men in ways that always reduce you, not to inspire growth, to create insecurity. She mentions an ex who always knew what to do. She points out the guy who bought his girlfriend something expensive. She references social media fantasies as if they're normal. She implies you're behind. You start competing with ghosts. You start chasing a standard that was never meant to be reached. Because if you ever felt enough, she'd lose leverage. Insecurity makes you overinvest. Overinvestment makes you easier to exploit. That's the loop. Weapon 9. Turning the relationship into a performance review. You're not a manderer. You're a project. Your gifts are graded. Your dates are rated. Your tone is analyzed. Your effort is measured. Your reactions are policed. She speaks like a manager, not a lover. And you start living like an employee, trying to avoid getting written up. A relationship becomes a job you can never do well enough, and the payment is occasional affection. This is where many men break, not because they're weak, because no human being can thrive under constant evaluation. Love is not a report card. Weapon 10. Boundary violations and identity erosion. Her boundaries are laws. Yours are suggestions. She expects instant access to you, but offers inconsistent access to herself. She demands transparency from you, but gives you vagueness. She wants emotional labor from you, but gives you minimal reciprocity. And whenever you enforce your boundary, she calls it cruelty, selfishness, or lack of love. Over time, you start shrinking your life. You see your friends less because it causes problems. You stop doing your hobbies because she needs you. You change your opinions because conflict isn't worth it. You stop dressing how you like because she criticizes it. You stop laughing as much. You stop feeling as much. One day you realize you're not even living your life. You're managing her world. That's identity destruction, and it's the final stage of control. When you can't imagine leaving because you don't remember who you were before her. Why this works so well on men. This is the part men need to hear without shame. These tactics work because they hijack your best traits. Your protectiveness becomes obligation. Your loyalty becomes a leash. Your patience becomes tolerance for disrespect. Your problem solving becomes self-abandonment. Your desire to lead becomes permission to be blamed for everything. A covert narcissistic partner doesn't win by being stronger than you. She wins by making your strengths serve her instability. The signs, you're in it. If you want a clear mirror, here it is. You're likely in this dynamic if you feel anxious around her more than you feel peace. You rehearse conversations before you have them. You apologize constantly just to keep the mood stable. You feel responsible for her emotions. You doubt your memory after arguments. You're walking on eggshells, monitoring tone and timing. You've stopped doing things you used to enjoy. You miss the beginning version of her like a drug. You keep trying to get back to the good days. You feel lonely in the relationship. That last one matters. Loneliness inside a relationship is a signal your soul doesn't feel safe. What to do about it? Here's the truth that frees men fastest. You cannot communicate your way out of manipulation. You cannot explain someone into empathy. You cannot love someone into accountability. You cannot sacrifice enough to earn stable respect from an unstable system. So what do? You stop playing the game. You reclaim emotional sovereignty. The ability to stay centered even when someone is trying to pull you into reaction. You do 3 things cleanly. 1, name reality, not to her, to yourself. Stop calling it miscommunication if it's pattern-based disrespect. Stop calling it stress if it's repeated cruelty. Stop calling it love if it requires you to abandon yourself. 2, rebuild your boundaries, not speeches, actions, short statements, calm exits, reduced access when the behavior shows up. Your nervous system must learn that peace is not negotiable. 3, reconnect to your identity, your friends, your training, your mission, your work, your values, your routines, the parts of you that existed before the relationship. That's your lifeline, because isolation is where manipulation grows best. And if you're deep in it, understand this. Leaving often triggers escalation. Not always violence, but emotional escalation. Smear campaigns, guilt storms, sudden love bombing to pull you back. Threats, tears, promises. That's not proof she loves you. That's proof she's losing control. If you need to leave, leave clean. Support systems on deck. Clear boundaries. Minimal debate. No long emotional trials. People who use manipulation thrive in endless conversations because every conversation is an opportunity to rewrite reality. What healing looks like. The aftermath can feel like withdrawal, because it is. Intermittent reinforcement bonds your brain to the cycle. When you step away, your body might crave a good version of her like an addict craves a hit. So you need structure, not willpower. Sleep, training, food, routine. Time away from her voice, her messages, her social media. A journal that records facts, so you don't romanticize the cycle. And if you can, professional support with someone who understands emotional abuse and coercive control. Healing isn't becoming cold. Healing is becoming clear. Clear enough to spot manipulation early. Clear enough to leave at the first pattern. Clear enough to choose women who bring peace, not puzzles. The final truth. Most men don't get destroyed by one big betrayal. They get destroyed by a slow erosion of self-respect, by a relationship that teaches them to doubt their instincts, by a dynamic that turns love into labor. If you've been through this, don't let it turn you into a man who hates women. Let it turn you into a man who has standards. A healthy woman won't punish your boundaries. A healthy woman won't make you earn basic respect. A healthy woman won't confuse drama with depth. And you don't need to become cruel to protect yourself. You need to become anchored, because the opposite of being controlled isn't controlling her. The opposite of being controlled is being unmovable in your own reality. That's the goal. Not paranoia, not bitterness, not revenge. Clarity, calm, standards, and the willingness to walk away the moment love starts costing your dignity.